Welcome to Wisdom-Trek with Gramps. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, and we are on day 2830 of our trek. The purpose of Wisdom-Trek is to create a legacy of wisdom, to seek out discernment and insights, and to boldly grow where few have chosen to grow before. The title of today's Wisdom-Trek is The Yodh of Formation, Shaped by the Creator's Hands. In our previous episode on this grand expedition, we climbed through the 9th stanza of Psalm 119, the Teth section. We stood in the heat of the refiner's fire. We learned a difficult but profoundly beautiful truth. God is perfectly good, even when his discipline hurts. We saw how the psalmist looked back at his own wandering and realized that his suffering was actually a severe mercy designed to pull him back to the safety of the cosmic blueprint. We concluded that the instructions of the Creator are vastly more valuable than millions in gold and silver because they alone possess the currency of eternal life. Today, we take our next deliberate, steady step upward, climbing into the 10th stanza of this magnificent alphabetical mountain. We are stepping into the Yodh section, covering Psalm 119, verses 73 through 80 in the New Living Translation. In the ancient Hebrew alphabet, the letter Yodh is the smallest letter, yet it carries immense theological weight. The original pictograph for Yodh was a hand, specifically an arm and a hand extended in action or work. It represents the creative, forming, and active power of God. It is incredibly fitting, then, that this specific stanza opens by looking directly at the hands of the Creator. If the previous stanza was about God reforming us through discipline, this stanza is about God forming us from the very beginning. Let us step onto the trail and discover what it means to be shaped by the Maker of the cosmos. The first segment is the Maker's Manual and the Community of Hope. Psalm 119, verses 73 and 74. You made me, you created me. Now give me the sense to follow your commands. May all who fear you find in me a cause for joy, for I have put my hope in your word. The stanza opens with a breathtaking declaration of origins. You made me, you created me. Literally, the Hebrew text says, your hands have made me and fashioned me. The psalmist is looking down at his own physical body, considering his intellect, his emotions, and his soul, and he traces it all back to the deliberate, skillful hands of Yahweh. We must view this through the lens of the ancient Israelite worldview. In the surrounding pagan cultures of Babylon and Canaan, human beings were viewed as an afterthought. The rebel gods of the divine council supposedly created humans to be mere slaves, designed to do the heavy lifting and provide food for the lazy deities. Humanity was viewed as cheap, expendable labor. But the biblical narrative shatters that dark deception. Yahweh did not create humans to be slaves. He created us to be his imagers. He carefully, intimately fashioned humanity from the dust, breathing his own life into us so that we could rule as his authorized vice-regents on earth. Because God's hands made us, God inherently knows how we function best. Therefore, the psalmist makes a profoundly logical request. Now give me the sense to follow your commands. He is essentially saying, Lord, you are the manufacturer. You wrote the instruction manual for the human soul. I cannot operate this life properly without your guidance. Please, grant me the spiritual comprehension to understand how you designed me to live. When we gain this sense and begin to align our lives with the Creator's design, it creates a massive ripple effect. The psalmist says, may all who fear you find in me a cause for joy, for I have put my hope in your word. We are never trekking in isolation. We are surrounded by other exiles, other believers who fear the Lord, and who are fighting their own exhausting battles against a hostile culture. When they look at your life, and they see you maintain your hope in the Word of God, even when the journey is steep and painful, it injects joy and courage into their veins. Your stubborn, relentless hope becomes a beacon of light for the entire covenant community. The second segment is the fairness of the fire and the comfort of the covenant. Psalm 119, verses 75 through 77. I know, O Lord, that your regulations are fair. You disciplined me because I needed it. Now let your unfailing love comfort me, just as you promised me, your servant. Surround me with your tender mercies so I may live, for your instructions are my delight. The psalmist briefly glances backward, returning to the painful theme of the previous Teth stanza. He makes a profound, mature confession. I know, O Lord, that your regulations are fair. You disciplined me because I needed it. The Hebrew word for fair here is tzedek, which means absolute, unbending righteousness and justice. The gods of the pagan nations were notoriously capricious, petty, and unpredictable. They would strike people with disease or famine simply because they were in a bad mood, but Yahweh's justice is perfect. The psalmist realizes that the painful season of discipline he endured was not random abuse from an angry deity. It was a precise, calculated, and entirely justified correction, rooted in God's faithfulness. He acknowledges, "I wandered off the path, and you faithfully used the rod to pull me back." But a human soul cannot survive on discipline alone. A broken bone must be set, but then it must be wrapped and allowed to heal. "So," he cries out for the healing balm, "now let your unfailing love comfort me, just as you promised me, your servant." Here we see our anchor word, Hesed, God's loyal, covenant-keeping love. The discipline accomplished its purpose. The rebellion has been burned away. Now, the psalmist desperately needs the comforting embrace of his Father. He holds God to his own promises, reminding the Creator that a servant relies entirely on the Master for his emotional and spiritual survival. He intensifies this plea in verse 77. "Surround me with your tender mercies so I may live, for your instructions are my delight." The word translated as tender mercies is rachamim, a beautiful Hebrew term rooted in the word for a mother's womb. It implies a fierce, protective, nurturing compassion. The psalmist is living in a dangerous, contested world, and he feels incredibly vulnerable. He asks Yahweh to envelop him, to wrap him up in a womb-like shield of compassion. Without this divine nurturing protection, he simply cannot survive the hostility of his environment. He bases his plea on the fact that he has not abandoned the cosmic blueprint. Even in his pain, God's instructions remain his absolute delight. The third segment is the Cosmic Smear Campaign and the Unity of the Exiles. Psalm 119, verses 78 and 79. "Bring disgrace upon the arrogant people who lied about me. Meanwhile, I will concentrate on your commandments. Let me be united with all who fear you, with those who know your laws." The hostile environment the psalmist is trying to survive is not abstract. It is intensely personal and vicious. He prays, "Bring disgrace upon the arrogant people who lied about me." As we have discussed in previous treks, these arrogant people are the human proxies for the rebel spiritual principalities. They operate using the native language of the kingdom of darkness, which is deception. They have launched a coordinated smear campaign, plastering the psalmist with fabricated lies, trying to destroy his reputation and isolate him from society. They want to shame him into abandoning his loyalty to Yahweh. But the psalmist asks the supreme judge of the divine council to reverse the verdict. He asks God to take the shame and disgrace that the arrogant are trying to project onto him and turn it back onto their own heads. Notice his personal reaction to the attack. Does he spend his energy retaliating? Does he try to outslander the slanderers? No. He says, "Meanwhile, I will concentrate on your commandments." Other translations say, "I will meditate on your precepts." While the arrogant are busy forging lies and digging traps in the dirt, the psalmist elevates his mind. He refuses to get into the mud with them. He hands the defense of his reputation entirely over to God, and he spends his mental energy studying the architecture of the cosmos. He concentrates on the things that are eternal, rather than the temporary noise of his critics. Because the attack is designed to isolate him, he actively seeks out holy alliances. "Let me be united with all who fear you, with those who know your laws." He is calling for the fellowship of the faithful remnant. In a world governed by deception and arrogance, the believers must find each other. We must lock arms with those who possess the shared vocabulary of God's laws. When the world tries to push us out, we must pull each other in, forming an unbreakable, united front of encouragement and shared joy. The fourth segment is the ultimate goal, an undivided heart. Psalm 119, verse 80. "May I be blameless in keeping your decrees, then I will never be ashamed." The Yodh stanza concludes with a profound, summarizing prayer for internal wholeness. "May I be blameless in keeping your decrees, then I will never be ashamed." The English word blameless often implies absolute sinless perfection, but the Hebrew word used here is tamim, which carries the idea of being complete, whole, sound, or undivided. The psalmist is not claiming that he will never make another mistake. Rather, he is praying for an undivided heart. He does not want a heart that is fractured, partially trusting in Yahweh and partially trusting in the idols and wealth of the surrounding nations. He wants his internal command center to be entirely integrated, fully aligned with the decrees of the Creator. He wants the hands that fashioned him in the womb to continually shape his character, removing the cracks of hypocrisy and compromise. And what is the ultimate result of an undivided, blameless heart? "Then I will never be ashamed." In an honor and shame culture, shame was the ultimate defeat. The arrogant liars were trying to shame him in the courts of public opinion, but the psalmist is looking past the temporary courts of this world. He is looking ahead to the ultimate cosmic courtroom where the divine council convenes and the Creator evaluates the lives of his imagers. If his heart is whole, and if his life is securely anchored to the instructions of Yahweh, he knows that he will stand before the throne of the universe with absolute confidence. The lies of the enemy will evaporate, the rebel gods will be judged, and the faithful servant will never, ever experience the terror of eternal shame. Psalm 119, verses 73 through 80, is a magnificent reminder of our origins and our destiny. It teaches us that we are not cosmic accidents. We were carefully, intentionally fashioned by the hands of a loving Creator. Because He made us, we must desperately rely on His instruction manual to navigate the complexities of our souls and the hostilities of our world. As you walk your trek today, remember that the Maker knows exactly what you need. When the discipline hurts, trust that it is fair and that it is forging you into something beautiful. When the arrogant culture lies about you, do not waste your breath fighting in the mud. Meditate on the truth, unite with your fellow believers, and let the Lord handle your defense. Ask God to make your heart tamim whole, undivided, and completely devoted to His cosmic order. When you allow the hands of the Creator to shape your daily steps, you will become a powerful cause for joy to everyone around you, and you will walk into eternity without a single shadow of shame. If you found this podcast insightful, please subscribe and leave us a review. Then encourage your friends and family to join us and come along tomorrow for another day of Wisdom Trek, Creating a Legacy. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide, mentor, and most importantly, I am your friend as I serve you through this Wisdom Trek podcast and journal. As we take this trek of life together, let us always live abundantly, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity, leave a living legacy each day. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, reminding you to keep moving forward, enjoy your journey, and create a great day every day. See you next time for more daily wisdom.